Growth has been slowing down for a long time in Europe, but we've ignored it. Until 2 years ago, we would never have such a conversation as the one we're having today, because things were sort of going well. We were doing well out of globalization, unemployment was steadily falling, but now we cannot ignore it any longer. We've lost our main supplier of cheap energy, Russia, and now we have to start for our defense again for the first time since the Second World War. At the same time, this is the first year when Europe cannot count on population growth for its increase, and population is set to decline steadily, so much that by 2040 there will be 2 million workers disappearing from the labor market every year. Productivity is weak, it's very weak. So if we were to maintain our current average productivity of the last 10 years, say, it would only be enough to keep GDP constant until 2050. The investment share will have to rise by around 5 percentage points of GDP to levels last seen in the 60s and the 70s. And if Europe can no longer provide them to its people, it will have lost its reason for being.
And Mario Draghi, he was commissioned by the European Union. So I guess they decided to hire Mario Draghi, to pay Mario Draghi and his team. I don't know, unless he was doing this for free out of the goodness of his heart. But they wanted Mario Draghi to research and put out a report as to why the EU is doing so poorly. Why does the EU suck so bad? That was basically what Mario Draghi was commissioned to find. And he delivered his report a couple of days ago. And Mario Draghi basically revealed that the EU is toast. The EU, the economy of the European Union, of the member states, is not looking good. They are not competitive. He said they have lost their supply to energy, though he didn't get into the reasons as to how and why the European Union has lost access to cheap energy. He said that the birth rates, population growth, is falling and will continue to fall over the many, many decades ahead. It's not going to be easy to solve the population decline in the entire European Union. And the EU is just not keeping up with the US. It's not keeping up with China. And it's falling very, very far behind. That is what Draghi said. He said that if the EU cannot provide things for its citizens, then we have lost the reason for being. Yeah, time to break up the EU, I think, if you go by that quote from that statement from Draghi. Maybe the European Union shouldn't give 300 billion to Ukraine, and maybe they should allocate the 300 billion to their people, to their citizens. But nah, better to give the money to Zelensky. But yeah, that's what Draghi came up with. And what's his solution? This is the real reason for this report, by the way. Don't believe any of this. Draghi's concerned about EU citizens, and Draghi wants the EU to look after its people, and the European Union is to do something in order to compete. Don't believe any of that. The real reason for Draghi's report and why Ursula commissioned Draghi to come out with this report is because Draghi's solution to the European Union's trouble is Eurobonds. That's right. That is his solution. EU facing existential risk without investment. The report was drawn up by a small team in a secretive atmosphere, and anticipation for its publication grew in Brussels after its release was delayed by several months. The spending recommendations in the report are described as unprecedented. They are equivalent to 5% of the bloc's GDP and more than double the post-World War II Marshall Plan. Without extra investment, the EU will be unable to finance its social model and will have to scale back some, if not all, of its ambitions, the report warned. The report, which is non-binding, calls for an expansion of joint borrowing. That's the key. An expansion of joint borrowing by EU states in order to fund the investment. A move which would be controversial and could be opposed by some member states. Yeah, Germany's not going to be happy with Draghi's solution. I imagine the Netherlands, Finland, a lot of countries, mostly in the north of Europe, are going to be very unhappy with Draghi's solution, which is collective borrowing, Eurobonds. Eurobonds, and all member states are on the hook for these Eurobonds, and this is something that Germany does not want. This is something that a country like Greece does want. We can borrow, and you're telling me we can borrow, and then if things don't work out, Germany's on the hook? Yes, sign us up, man. So, I mean, this is going to be a tough one to sell, but, you know, Germany's weak. Olaf Scholz is weak, and maybe if there's any time that they can sell this, it's now.